on Tuesday, May 4th, and I'm your chair, Ann Thurman. And I will call the meeting to order, and we'll go through in a minute to make sure who's here. But first, I need to read the statement from the required statement from the governor. As chair of the Exeter Police Stakeholders Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. On April 27th, 2021, public notice of this meeting was posted on the town website and on the bulletin board of the town offices at 10 Front Street. As provided in that public notice, the public may access the meeting online and via phone. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting and who that person is, which is required under the right to know law. Great, thank you, everyone. Elliot Berkowitz.
Elliot Berkowitz here, home alone.
And Harry King.
Here.
Excellent. Where am I here? Emily Heath. Sorry, Emily.
I'm here and I'm in the room alone.
Excellent. And all the other, excuse me, Daryl Brown, I see you. Sorry.
Here and alone.
Okay. And I did know, just as a quick thing before we get started, Molly Cowan had a last minute emergency and couldn't attend. Alexis Simpson let me know yesterday she would not be here because of things going on in Concord, which I totally understand. Darius is here. We'll get to him in a second. And Matt Carboni had also let me know that he had a prior commitment and could not be here.
Right.
So we knew it would be relatively lightly attended, but also I now see Darius.
Yeah, that was not fun. The fourth is not with me.
Oh, okay. I see Yoda.
Maybe Yoda.
So you're there with Yoda, or you're there alone?
I'm here with Sylvie and another black lab that I do not know the name of, but it's just us.
Okay. And Katie Adams. I see Katie's here.
Yep, present.
Very good. Awesome. Thank you so much. And I think I'm not sure if you caught the whole part of what I mentioned. The chief is at a training session today, so he and Deputy Chief Monk will not be here. We have Select Board Representative Daryl Brown here. Molly had a last minute emergency as well. Not as well, but it won't be here also. So that being said, we have a quorum. We can get started. Make sure you see one. So the first order of business would be, well, first off, would anyone like to take the minutes? Because both Alexis and Matt are not here. Now, I'll take the whole pressure off. If nobody wants to, it's not a problem because we have the video and I'm happy to do that after the fact. So no pressure, but if someone would like to take minutes, that would be great. Otherwise, we'll just, like I said, we'll go to the video and we're fine. So could we have a motion for the approval of the minutes, or does anybody have any edits or changes to those minutes? We had lively discussion in the last meeting, so if there was anything that anyone needed to add or adjust, just let me know. And if I don't see anybody, which I don't, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Motion to approve the minutes as written.
Motion by Darius Thompson. Do I see a second?
Second.
Second by Elliot Berkowitz. All those in favor, and I will call the roll. Elliot Berkowitz.
Aye.
Katie Adams.
Aye.
Harry King.
Aye.
Emily Heath.
Abstain as I was not here.
Okay, very good. Tanisha, I don't think Tanisha's here either. Oops. And Darius Thompson.
Aye.
Aye, and the chair says aye. Okay, so the meeting, those are as written. Okay, very good. I don't have much under old business this week. I do know going forward, I think we've mentioned this before, we are working toward a May 24th presentation to the Select Board that the chief and I will be doing, and basically the whole board is invited to it. And we'll talk more about that in the next meeting, but that's the date that the Select Board is willing to have us come before them, so we can talk about what we want to do on that night, and we can do that at our next meeting. also want you to know that, well, as we get to it, we'll get to the goals. We'll talk about who's going to talk about National Night Out because the chief is not here. So first off, we will go to our goal number 4, which was continuation of preventing crime. And we did not get to Sergeant Hanna last time to discuss traffic prevention and traffic statistics. So if Sergeant Hanna would like to take it away, we'll be happy to hear what he has to say.
Sure, kind of like Chief did with the crime statistics. I put together a couple of years of data. It's a little bit easier to put together the traffic stuff. I got most of it from the Department of Highway Safety that puts it together for our grants. So I did 2017 through 2019 because 2020 was kind of different. There wasn't much of a commute as people were staying at home and there wasn't school or anything like that. So our crashes in town have pretty much remained the same. In 2017, we had 360, 2018, we had 347, and 2019, we had 348. Of those crashes, these are crashes that are reportable to the state. So this is $1,000 in damage or more, or there was injury involved. So a minor fender bender might not be included in this. You know, if somebody rear ends somebody downtown and there's really not much damage, it might show up on this. Car accidents with serious bodily injury. So somebody going to the hospital complaining of neck pain, broken bones, something like that. In 2017, we had 43 of those. 2018, we had 57. In 2019, it actually dropped to 37. Of the more serious ones that we've had that cause serious bodily injury, usually about 15 are caused by drunk driving a year. A little over 10 are caused by speed, and the majority of those are caused by distracted driving, whether that be hands-free or paying attention to something else in the car. A statistic that kind of jumped out is teen accidents are on the rise, and I kind of wanted to get your guys' opinions on how we can reach out to the teens in our community. You know, this is only drivers that are 16 to 19 years old, but in 2017, we had 40 accidents involving teens. In 2018, we had 70, and in 2019, we had 167. So you've had about a 400% increase in teen accidents. We worked with the town and they did an intersection study. And by doing this, we kind of determined where the highest crashes happened in town. The largest one was Epping Road at 101. And then the downtown was another big one. Holland Way and Portsmouth Ave, Epping Road at Brentwood Road, and Northampton at 101. So basically the major thoroughfares meeting the other major thoroughfares is where we're getting the most of the accidents. In 2019, we did about 6,000 to 7,000 motor vehicle stops in town. There was about 2,000 stops for speed, about 600 for hands-free, and about 650 for either stop sign or stop lights. So what we already do for traffic safety and accident prevention, just our general patrols, the officers that are out on the street when they're not responding to calls or not working on paperwork are visible in the community, driving around, looking for motor vehicle violations, whether those be minor motor vehicle violations or really egregious ones. Besides that, we do directed patrols, and we're kind of starting to revamp this and look into this more. Obviously, we can't be everywhere all the time, so we rely on the community to tell us where there are problems and what kind of driving behaviors are occurring. So if they're speeding in your neighborhood, we want people to reach out and tell us because we may not always know. So we can direct our efforts to being there, whether that be being visible, having a social media presence of when we are there. You know, the goal is to reduce accidents, not necessarily to go out there and hand out tickets. That's not the only way to do it. So we're looking for feedback on how to educate the community, how to overall reduce bad driving and prevent accidents. Detective Page moves the signboard around town. You probably have seen it right now. It's on Kingston Road, right past West Side Drive. It's the one that tells you how fast you're going, just kind of as a heads up. You may be zoned out, but then all of a sudden you see you're going 45 and a 25, and hopefully you'll slow down after you see that. And Besides that, we're starting to look into, there's a program called DDAX. It's a data-driven analysis of crime and traffic safety. So we're basically pulling all of our data to look at where accidents happen, what the reasons for the accidents are, and what time the accidents that occur, so that we can be there and try to mitigate accidents from occurring. We're looking to increase our social media presence for education, and also for, if we do have directed patrols that a community member feels that, on Brentwood Road, there is a speeding problem, maybe we can put out that, we have officers out here, we're sitting out here now, and that's just another deterrent. And we're starting to get into grants with the Department of Highway Safety. So we have a bunch of different grants that are coming up in the next fiscal year. And this is for speed, drunk driving, distracted driving, and just general enforcement. So that's kind of what we do and what the statistics have been for the last 3 years. So if anybody in the community does have any issues that they feel that need more enforcement or more presence in the neighborhood, we urge them to reach out, and we're starting to track where these complaints are coming from, how long officers spend out there, what kind of enforcement actions we're taking, so that we can track that and see if that is able to mitigate some of the problems. Does anyone have any questions? Or
I'm not sure if Katie's first. Katie, are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, Katie and then Daryl. Thank you.
No, Daryl was first.
Okay, you guys are quicker on the draw than I am.
Thanks for all this good data. What are the behaviors that you're finding in the younger driver accidents? What are those causes? Could you say?
So that's something that I'd have to look into a little bit deeper. That was just kind of a statistic that I just found out when I was looking through it. We just applied for a bunch of grants, and that was one of the statistics that the Department of Highway Safety came out with, and that really jumped out. And I think it was, from 70 accidents in 2018 to 170 in 2019. Mm-hmm. So obviously there is something going on there, and we'll look into that and try to figure out what the causal factors of those accidents were. And maybe it can be an education piece, or maybe it's, they're happening at a specific time or a specific place. If it's after school gets out and the commute back home, maybe we're present during that time.
Yeah, I'm curious. Two wonderings. One is, it'd be interesting to look at how they're getting trained. So is it off-site training? Is it attached to the school? And then also, what are the issues that could be addressed in a broader education? So are there things that, it's mainly distracted driving, and then we could have a campaign for distracted driving that pretty much applies to that other 600 or however many it was, basically looking for behaviors that extend past that group and using them as canaries in the mine kind of thing? Yeah,
absolutely. Kind of educating on how those behaviors cause accidents and raise awareness towards that.
Yeah, but thanks for the data. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is fabulous data. Katie.
Yeah, my question was about that same statistic, and whether perhaps you don't know, but could find out how, if the surrounding towns have seen a similar trend, if the state has seen a similar trend, just to kind of know, of the percentage of teens who live in town, if we have X many teens and we have Y many accidents per year, does that ratio kind of track? Because it would be interesting to know whether there's kind of a general generational uptick, or there's something specific in town that seems to be changing.
Yeah, and I think that's something that could be looked into further. I think that it's just, it's a stat that just kind of popped up. So we're trying to learn more about it ourselves. And I think that other towns do have the ability to run that data. It's just a matter of they're going to, but I think that the state also tracks that, so we can see if it's a general trend.
Elliot.
I have a general question about the rules and regulations. When I got my driver's license 50 or 60 years ago, you weren't allowed to have loud mufflers or anything. I wonder, is that still on the books? Because I work in downtown Exeter, and I've got glass packs going by all day long, the noise, the backfiring. I'm just wondering, do we not enforce that anymore, or is it not on the books?
It still would be in the books. I believe it falls under the inspection requirements. So a lot of times inspection stations are the ones that kind of regulate that you have an exhaust that's too loud, you're not going to have an inspection. And that's kind of what we would pull them over for.
Okay. I feel better.
Emily.
Sort of follow up on Elliot's question. What about motorcycles sort of revving? Just because I know, like, we can hear it in church on Sunday mornings when church is in session, and loud cars and motorcycles going by. Like, I've got to stop preaching and like let them pass by. Yeah. So I was just kind of curious what our noise ordinances are around motor vehicles. Yeah.
So again, I think that's kind of determined by the inspection stations, and that's regulations that are set by the state in terms of whether or not it's a pass-fail for inspection. A lot of times it's kind of hard for us to determine what's a lawful noise and an unlawful noise. It's hard for us to judge that just by our ears necessarily.
I know, though, that we have throttle down signs coming into town. That's a regulation in town with motorcycles. And I'm not anti-motorcycle at all, but just kind of when there's deliberate throttling around schools, around houses of worship, that sort of thing, when they're in session.
Yeah, and there is something called misuse of power, and that's kind of for the, the people that are obviously doing it to draw attention or to be a nuisance. That is something that we can pull them over for. If they're in the downtown and they burn out down the street, it can also be looked at as different things. It could be reckless driving. So there's other things that we can pull them over for besides that.
Just curious. Thank you.
No, these are all good questions. I wanted to go back to the part where you talked about how you do want to hear from the public if they see either an erratic driver or they just think there's a poor intersection. I mean, short of do they just call dispatch, or is there a little more formalized process where they could get on the record to say, look, especially if it's something recurring. I mean, I know Hampton Falls Road is a speed trap. I've seen lots of people go through that red light at Holland Way. I mean, it's solidly red, and people just, the whole world seems to be getting a little crazy. But how do the members of the public actually get that kind of information to you and actually documented, and then something you can look into?
Yeah, so usually people will call in with a complaint, or if they do see an officer on the road and they're able to talk to them and bring it up that way. But we do have forms in dispatch and also in the supervisor's office, and we just have a request for an extra patrol, and we ask for the name of the person requesting it, a phone number, the location, the reason for the extra patrol, and if there's any days or times. So if it's during the evening commute that you're noticing, just so we know when and where to direct the officers. But we also like to have the information to follow back up with the person to see if our efforts are making the problem go away, if it's getting better. And obviously you don't have to provide that. You can be anonymous if you want to, but that's kind of how we do it right now. So if you guys have any ideas of how that could be better, or we could get that out to people better or make it easier for people to bring forward ideas for where we need patrols or anything like that.
That's what you mean by directed patrol, an actual, here's where we're going because there has been known repeated offenses, so to speak.
Yeah, so that's one of our call types is we call it a directed patrol or selective enforcement, basically where we have received a complaint from a citizen saying, there's speeders on this road and they're usually here at this time. We'll send an officer out there and we create a call card for that so that we can look into it to see, how often we're able to get out there. Obviously, other emergencies and things come up that prevent us from doing that. But if we have a specific complaint, we want to make sure that we're addressing that and getting somebody out there and seeing what the results of our officer being out there are.
Katie, is your hand up again? Or is it
people love to talk about this on Facebook. I wonder if I wonder if they would feel more reluctant to bring it up, using their actual names, like typing it onto the Exeter Police Facebook page. But certainly on the town page, between this and the Stillwell's trash can, it's like those are some of the top topics. So I wonder if you're looking for more, informal or easily accessible ways to get people's feedback. I wonder if that could be a way, sort of a question of like, what do you think is the most dangerous intersection in town, or where have you noticed the least safe driving in town, or something like that. I don't know if that would create, finger pointing and chaos I can't anticipate, but perhaps there's this use for social media there.
Yeah, like just putting it out on our Facebook page kind of as a general question and seeing what the responses are. Yeah,
and even just to say, like, just a reminder, we're always open to feed, because, this is sort of a different message than we've been sending. We've been, I think rightfully focused on this message of like, if you see a suspicious person, really give some thought to why your instinct is to call the police, because that really may not be a useful instinct in this case. And we've been really talking about that a lot in many meetings. And so we're sort of sending the opposite message here, which I think is entirely appropriate and logical. But even if you don't want to call people to the Facebook page to say, rat out your neighbors here, just even a reminder saying this is something we actually really love to get the public's feedback about. So please feel free to call this number or come by and fill out a form anytime you see it.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's a perennial problem of people that are not stopping for pedestrians when there's got a sign and a crosswalk. I've noticed that fewer than 50% of the people paying attention to it.
Yeah, so we have a grant coming up that we're going to deploy officers, and specifically in the downtown and the areas where there's a lot of congestion. We have a pedestrian bicycle grant that the state is funding us to go out there and to monitor sidewalks and crosswalks and to make sure that there's no accidents that are resulting from people failing to stop for pedestrian walks. So that is something that's coming up, but definitely if there are areas in town that are worse than others, we look for feedback from that so that we can make sure that we're in the right place at the right time.
Well, in the downtown area, people are pretty good. But when you get outside of the downtown area, people are terrible.
Okay.
I used to walk up High Street all the time, and at those crosswalks, as I say, fewer than 50% of the people will stop. It was a lot closer to 2/3 of the people do not stop.
Yeah, and that's definitely good information for us to know, because that might be something that we don't know, and it's definitely good so that we can make sure that we're present in those areas.
And I think you mentioned earlier about trying to educate back on when you talked about the that high number of accidents, the numbers that have gone up. I mean, if in normal times, would you address, I'm going to say the high school, is there a way through driver education? And I'm way out of this all these years later, so it might be totally different, but are there forums like that, classes where not that you're trying to scare them, but to let them know, this is really a scary statistic that we have so many teen accidents, and how to help. I know you're looking for help to prevent them, but also how does the message even get out to these kids that they really need to pay attention to when they're driving?
Yeah, and I believe we do have some involvement in driver safety courses. Detective Page that just jumped on, I believe he works with the one that's hosted out of the hospital, and he does a presentation for classes that go through there. And we're going to try to work with the SRO and get her involved in driver education courses at the high school, just to do another presentation similar to what Detective Page does, and maybe just be a question and answer kind of session just to raise education and awareness.
If you get while they're young, maybe that will help a new generation of drivers. Any other questions for Sergeant Hannah? Emily.
I have a question just about DUI accidents involving alcohol. Has there been any effort to identify and maybe address restaurants or bars in the area that overserve?
So recently we just we worked with liquor enforcement for underage buys. So we conducted that. In terms of for over-serving and things like that, we don't really have anything as of this point. When we do have a DWI, if they report to us where they came from, we have a way to report that to liquor enforcement, and liquor enforcement will follow up on that and determine if it's a problem or not, or if it's, if it's occurring more often from specific establishments, and they can take action against them.
Okay. Thank you.
And I just had a really general question. If you see someone that you mentioned driving erratically for whatever reason, and you are able to somewhat hands-free call the police from wherever you are, I mean, does that actually happen where people call in the moment and say, this person is driving erratically? I see Ashley nodding her head. And then
Ashley is definitely nodding her head. We get a bunch of calls every day about that. We will always send somebody out there to check the area and see if we can make contact with that operator and see what was going on, or if we do see a violation, we'll definitely stop them for that.
It's got to be hard in the moment. I mean, I'll tell you, my pet peeve is the tailgaters. There are people, I feel like I'm towing them. I mean, they are right on me. And I feel like half the time I cannot see the license plate anyway, but even if I could, by the time I get to you, they may be turned off, they may have gone down the road. I know that's extremely dangerous when people do that, because if all of a sudden I have to stop, they're in my trunk, or my dog's in the back. That's not going to be good for anybody. But anyway, I see a lot of that. I'm not sure what the rest of the committee has seen, and just people in general. I don't know how you stop tailgating. I mean, that's just so dangerous.
You can always call in, and if we can, hopefully we can catch up with the person. But if we can't, at least I always tell everybody that calls, you're better safe than sorry. Just call us. If it falls through and we can't catch up, then at least we're aware that this car in this area that looked like it was blue, a sedan or a station wagon or an SUV or whatever, we can keep an eye out. You're always better safe than sorry. Just give us a call. That's what we're there for.
Good to know. Good to know. Now, we appreciate all this. Again, more food for thought. I mean, this committee, we've gotten probably more information on topics that we never even knew we would be able to. It's been really just information overload in a really good way. I don't want to speak for everyone, but that's how I feel like we've gotten a lot of information, and it's been a great forum for us to ask questions. Does anyone else have anything more on traffic? I don't want to go down I'd love to talk about intersections, and I know that will be a whole other conversation, but one of the last pet peeve is the do not block intersection 1 at Epping Road, and I think is it Columbus Ave? Is that or Washington Street?
Yeah, that weird intersection right there.
I just wish a policeman would just sit there, because they block, the cars all do it. Nobody just waits for the next one to go. I mean, now I think you've got some construction going on out there, so it's a little bit different. But, and I don't know if rotaries, like we talked once about the rotary potential out at Linden Street, things like that. I mean, if those would save some of this, it'd be nice to know with some of these grants that you're going to get, if they can do a little research on some of these, dangerous intersections, and just see if there are ways to improve.
Yeah, and the town actually did last year, and that's where we got a lot of our intersection data from, is they were looking at citizen complaints for intersections, visibility at intersections, accidents at intersections, and injuries. And I don't exactly know where the town's at with that. It was the highway department that did it, and the town engineers, and they brought in an outside company to kind of do a analysis of what intersections need some assessment and need to be redesigned.
Yeah, well, I'll follow up on that one. Anyway, I think Dave Sharples is on here too, so we can talk to him at some point. Anything else for Sergeant Hanna? Because I know we'll be talking more about this. We really appreciate all that information. Great data for us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Now, originally, I think Chief Poulin had told me that Sergeant Renaro was going to talk about National Night Out, but I don't. Is someone sitting in for him? Yes, Officer Page. Okay, great.
Hi, Ann. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good. So
good to see you.
This originally started with me. I was going to talk about it, and then I I just got back. I was at a meeting, and then where Chief Pullen wasn't going to be here, it was going to be Detective Sergeant Bernaro, but I am back on time, so I can talk about National Night Out.
Perfect.
We held it in 2019, and we had a good turnout. It was our first one. I think we had a couple hundred people. So this year, we're just hoping to expand it. So for people that don't know what National Night Out is, I'm just going to kind of read off what I got off the website. National Night Out is an annual community building campaign that promotes police, community partnerships, and neighborhood camaraderie to make our neighborhoods safer, more caring places to live. National Night Out enhances the relationship between neighborhoods and law enforcement. That pretty much sums it up. So last time we had, I think, 5 or 6 different departments that brought cruisers down and police vehicles. We had our motorcycle, and there was the CERT Bearcat there. So it's kind of like a touch a truck event where kids can come out, they can sit in the police cars, they can get to know us, people can come up to us and ask us questions. There's all kinds of food trucks there, dunk tanks, live music. Mike Monk, Deputy Chief Mike Monk, his band's going to play. So it's going to be August 3rd this year from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And we're hoping to expand on it, make it bigger, more people can come down, talk to the officers, get to know us a little bit, and enjoy a good time. Ann, you came in 2019, and I think, Harry, you came down to visit.
No, it was really good, and I'll just mention because that was the first one, and at least that Exeter had ever done. Because I had worked in Dover for years, and friends of mine had talked about the one that had gone on in Dover, and I've never even heard of it. This is at least 10 years ago, and I thought, what's National Night Out all about? And they sort of told me, and I thought, oh, that's neat. And then this one came up, and I thought, well, this is great, and we were going to build on it the next year, which of course COVID took care of that. But I really hope everyone talks this up quite a bit. I went online and looked up what you just read, and they have a whole dog aspect of it too. There's this sort of dog walker thing. You know, everyone knows me. I'm all about the dogs. But it was really, I thought it was neat. I think we had Brentwood there. I think you had Stratham. It's just a nice opportunity for people to just meet the officers. I think with the baseball card initiative you have going on now, that's going to be a great opportunity for that as well. Any ideas that people have for that night, I'm sure this committee or anyone let you guys know. We'll help you any way we can. I certainly will volunteer myself to help in any way that I can.
So the baseball cards, the officers that are going to be there should all have a bunch of baseball cards with them. And anybody that comes up to us, we'll give them a card. There's a little bio on there. They can get to know us. And if they bring 5 cards to McDonald's, McDonald's sponsored it, they'll be able to get a sundae or an ice cream cone from McDonald's. So just another way to get to know us and to talk with us. And, the children, anybody really can, maybe it will break a barrier to be able to talk with one of the officers and get their baseball card and get to know them on a personal level.
What's the goal of the event? The main goal?
The main goal is just to build community relations between the police and the community. Get to know us. Like I said, there's going to be a bunch of different booths there. People can come down. Last time the racial unity team was there. McDonald's is going to come down. It's a community event to get people together with the police.
And do you have everybody are there people that you need us to, or any of us to help reach out to that don't know about, or that you want to, that might want to be a part of it, that don't know a way to, I'm sort of doing a PSA here. If we get the select board talking it up in the next few meetings and such, if there's anything else that you need, just, I would definitely reach out to them. I'm sure they would be happy to help with that as well. It's the right time.
I saw Nico the other day, and I gave him, we have some save the date cards that we're starting to give out. It is early. I mean, it's going to be in August, but we're starting to promote it and starting to get the word out. And like I said, try to build on what we had in 2019.
Yeah, no, it was great. And hopefully have great weather for it as well. That'll help.
People can reach out to me. They can call me at the station, at the regular line, and ask for me if they want to get involved. If they have questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Do you have like the community groups involved, like Rotary, Kiwanis, that group line, any of those guys, and Chamber?
The Lions was part of it last time, and they've already said they're going to be part of it. We're starting to get some groups in. Riverwoods reached out to us. Lions, the YMCA is going to be part of it. Exeter Hospital, we've already talked to them. Team was part of it last time, and they would be part of it again. So there's a bunch of organizations. Try to get a bunch of different organizations involved. But like I said, anybody that wants to be part of it, reach out to me, and we'll figure something out.
And
excellent. Anyway, go ahead, Darius.
just a point of clarification, this is a free event for the public. There will be no fundraising or anything else of that nature.
No, it's completely free. The only thing that people have to pay for is like the food trucks. If they want to get a burger or something, they'll have to pay for that. But everything else is free.
So I think it's wonderful. All these organizations that are in town are donating their time and doing this free of charge. So that's great.
Oh, that's awesome. Great. I really appreciate your time. Anyone else have any questions for Officer Page? Excellent. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Okay. Next we have, you've probably seen his name up here. Dave Sharples is actually another guest speaker today who's going to talk to us about the, our goal number 5, part of which was enhancing infrastructure. So he will update us on where we are with the safety complex, and just the whole, I know he's part of the facilities committee as well. So, we're grateful that you could be here today, Dave. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Chief Poulin asked me he wasn't able to make it, so he asked me to update you on the process of where we're at with the public safety complex. And where we're at, we're just in the early stages. We've been working with the Facilities Advisory Committee to prepare a scope of work and an RFQ, or request for qualifications. And I just sent them the latest draft. I got some input from the committee. We revised the RFQ, and I sent it off to them this week in anticipation for their meeting on Thursday. And assuming they, have no further comments, we'll issue the RFQ probably later this week, maybe Friday or next week, and then give it about 30 days for responses for consultants to respond, and put an interview panel together and interview the respondents, and then select a consultant to work with to do an analysis basically on the various options that we have, and determine the best path forward for the town. And it'll also include some public input sessions as well, public input before and after plans are made. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Dave, are they looking at both options of whether it be one building or 2 buildings, or is that all part of the RFQ?
Yeah, it's part of the RFQ. I mean, the options, we're discussing that on Thursday. There's been several options that have been thrown out, either, stay in the same property downtown and reconstruct for police and fire. They talked about, another property somewhere in around the downtown and building a new complex. They talked about possibly utilizing the Continental Drive parcel as a place for, say, the new police station, and renovate the downtown for fire. So that really, there's several options being explored. Nothing has been finalized or set in stone, and that's what the committee's still discussing, and the consultant will help us figure out like the preferred alternative when we know what, the costs and associated, and hear from the public input. So nothing has been determined, or no conclusions have been made.
Right. It's really early on, and you know that better than anyone how early on it is.
Yeah.
But we just want to at least touch on it, because infrastructure is part and parcel of the whole, all that we do. And at least in the police study, they made it pretty clear, as anyone that saw that presentation last Monday, it's pretty clear that the building is just really it's never been updated in years and years. So the whole building is just in need of some capital improvements. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I did a tour over there, and I mean, they have offices in the hallways, so that gives it away right there that they are a little tight over there. they're making it work,
Exactly. No, good for them. Darius.
So I realize that this is a couple things that have a question, and then it relates to infrastructure. Given that we decided as a town to put the investments and money into the library, hopefully this is the second time the library's had to be reinvested in and be fixed. Hopefully that whatever plans come up from the consultants, it is a one-time build that we hopefully mitigate any type of additional having to go back to the taxpayers and ask them for more money to fix this or fix that. So hopefully that whatever structure is recommended, because it is definitely needed, that it's done correctly and it's built right the first time and there are no issues with that, so we don't have to come back to the taxpayers and ask them for more money again. That's just more of a statement observation. The question I had relative to Sergeant Hannah was with the incident rates. Is there anything that talks about with the traffic study of a decrease or increase in incidents where things are occurring, whether they're sidewalks or not, at the various intersections, where you mentioned Holland Way and other places where there are some sidewalks there, but is there any information in that study or information that's provided that having more sidewalks decreases speed, which helps narrow the road down a little bit? As an example, Drinkwater Road is a cut through, which is known for having 25 miles an hour, but on average, I can tell you just from visual observations, cars are going up the hill and down the hill much faster. And there's other areas in town where there's a need for a sidewalk to help maybe slow things down a little bit by narrowing the road just a skosh. I know there's other regulations that fall into a place where if it's a state road, it has to be certain width. But I say all that to find the question is there any information that leads to having more sidewalks helps decrease or increase, one way or the other, accidents and other traffic enforcement issues?
We didn't look into that for when we put together our traffic analysis, and I don't necessarily know the answer to that. I feel like a outside consultant company or engineers would be better fit for coming up with the answer to that. But I mean that it might be something that we can look into, but I think that ultimately sidewalks and things like that are the determination of the town. Our study more looked into what the causal factors for accidents were in terms of, was it speeding? Was it people blowing stop signs? Was it people on their phones? And things that we could use motor vehicle law to mitigate accidents rather than the design of a roadway.
Okay. And then to that follow-up to that, Dave, do you have anything to add or is it just unrelated?
To add on that question you had?
Yes. Sidewalks relative to where, planning wise, having sidewalks, does that slow traffic down or does that increase, the potential for incidents or things of that nature?
Well, in general, the FHA, the DOT, the U.S. DOT does say that the addition, of sidewalks does reduce walking along roadway crashes and other pedestrian crashes. I don't have that data in front of me, but I do know that they say that reduces that. I think they say that roadways without sidewalks are like twice as likely to have pedestrian crashes as those as sites with sidewalks on both sides of the street.
Gotcha.
So without sidewalks, they do from a pedestrian safety standpoint. If people are walking on them, sidewalks are safer to have. It's safer to have sidewalks.
Okay. And then the last question was there any information related to crosswalks and some of the certain areas within downtown or other crosswalks in general, whether there be additional lighting or signage or things to help decrease any instances, if it was something you looked at or not, of pedestrian motor vehicle accidents?
That wasn't really something that we looked into. It's definitely something that we could. We focused more on motor vehicle accidents because that's predominantly what we have is motor vehicle versus motor vehicle.
Right.
At intersections. I believe that over the past 3 years, there may have been a 1 or 2 pedestrian or bicycle accidents a year. And those, I don't believe, came to any specific location. There wasn't something that would say that, it's more likely to happen here. It seemed fairly spread out.
Okay. And also, I know that a lot of our sidewalks now are getting to the point of trying to become more ADA compliant. And just, again, the whole public safety infrastructure spectrum is, those are things that some of us are aware of, or to be cognizant of, that we should have well-lit crosswalks, we should have accessible spaces, that we look at the planning for our infrastructure, that we not only look at motor vehicle safety, but also look at pedestrian safety as well. So, which is something we do. It's just something to bring up in discussion. That's all.
May I? Yeah, I agree with that. And we've had in the CIP, we've had a bike and pedestrian master plan, and hopefully going to bring that forward for funding next year to look at the entire town, look at bike pedestrian networks and where connections need to be made, and come up with a master plan to do just that, kind of look at the connections in Exeter and make it more pedestrian friendly and walkable. So we do have a funding in the CIP for such a plan.
Well, I do seem to recall, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here, but there is a sidewalk fund that is funded. It would be nice to see that being used versus coming to the taxpayers for additional things, or general funding to be used. So that's just another story. So I digress. Continue on.
Yeah, my understanding, sidewalk fund is actual for physical infrastructure and redoing, existing infrastructure and under the DPW. But good point. We'll take that into consideration. Yeah. I do have one more thing to add, because I have a 4:00 appointment with a resident, but they're here. I just got a note from Barb, but I just wanted to for a second chime in, because I heard you talking about the Brentwood Road Columbus intersection. I'm going to share my screen for a second, and I'm not sure everyone's aware. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. This was approved as part of a grant I pursued, Transportation Alternative Program grant, and this is what's going to be done. They have done a little bit, but then they left, and then now they'll come back. This project's slated to be done by July 21st. It's supposed to be substantially complete. But here's that intersection, and now when you're coming down Epping Road here, you're heading south on Epping Road. You used to be able to take a right and cut right across to Columbus, and then people from Columbus would come on the north side of the island and park here, and there was only queuing for one car. I think you were saying how that was. So as part of that grant, it's more for pedestrian safety. The main purpose of this is for pedestrian safety, because you'll see the crosswalk going across, and this little teardrop island that's extended provides relief for pedestrians instead of walking the 80, 90 feet across without relief. So now you're not going to be able to come and bear right on Epping Road and go straight across to Columbus anymore. You got to come down. You got to take a right onto Brentwood Road. Columbus will still be two ways. If you come down Brentwood Road, you can still take a right onto Columbus, but you're not going to get on this side. You Brentwood Road, you come on this side of the island, and in that one queue spot, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. You got to come up to this side of the island to take a right or a left. So we feel that those improvements will make it a lot safer for pedestrians, vehicles, everyone at this intersection. And I just wanted to show that to the committee since you brought it up.
Oh, good timing. I had no idea.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I heard there was going to be something going on there, but I didn't know it had gotten to that point. So that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, we got input from police and fire and public safety and so forth, and public, and went through a couple of public forums. So we feel confident this is, there's much a safer design than it is today. I mean, there's ideal situations, but you gotta work with the land you have and with the right of way that you have. And we felt this was the best option for that to improve the safety of that intersection.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing that, Dave.
No problem. Thanks
for your time today. I know you got to run, but really appreciate. I'm sure we'll be talking some more about infrastructure with you.
Yeah, let me know. Right. Thank you very much.
Thanks
appreciate
so much.
it.
Okay. Anyone have any further comments in regard to any of the topics we've been going through today? 3:51. This could be a record, folks. I'm sure you'll all be very happy about that. Okay. Yeah. No, a lot to digest and a lot to come back to, which is going to be great. I did not get any correspondence this week, so unless anyone has anything else, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. First, before I do that, I just want to thank Officer Page and Sergeant Hanna and Dispatcher Joya and everybody else on here. Officer Suglia, is it Suglia? For your and everybody participating today. And I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in, I'll take a raise. If you want to just raise your hands, I'm going to call the roll. I'll consider that the roll call. Okay, great. The chair says aye. Thank you. And we are adjourned at 3:51.